Hi, everyone. We're just waiting on Adamoli to join us. Wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming aboard. We have a lot to go over today, so I look forward to all of this being entertaining. Some housekeeping rules just before we start. I'm going to ask everybody who is joining today to please make sure that they mute themselves. As well, keep your video on. We are going to do a Q&A at the end of this. Please save all your questions, but if you do have questions in the interim, certainly put them in the chat, and we can address those at the end of the call, unless it's something pressing. Adam only, when he joins, he'll introduce himself. But for the sake of time, I want to get going today. So first of all, welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Novak, and I'm the founder and CEO of Cardinal Bytes Cybersecurity Risk and Management Company. If you're a CPA, a tax professional, accountant, or bookkeeper, you know that your EFIN is your livelihood. But right now, the IRS is changing the rules. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a 15-minute cyber shield, a way to satisfy the IRS and audit-proof your practice without having to become a tech genius or spend 40 hours a week reading manuals and Googling. This training applies to other licensed professionals like attorneys and insurance agents as well. So here's our agenda today. First, we're going to look at the IRS loophole, how to meet requirements without simple settings you already own. Second, we're going to talk about the AI vault, using Agentic AI technology to guard your data while you sleep. Finally, the ghost exit, how to stop your liability breach the moment the tax season ends. We'll wrap up with specific checklists and steps for you to take to implement today. So before we begin, I do want to share with you a story. Several weeks ago, I met a new client. She begins to tell me how her client paid a $40,000 invoice to a hacker, what we call a BEC, or a business email compromise, which is, by the way, the number one threat, along with wire fraud today, for small businesses and firms. What I found interesting is that she had her WIS set up, she had her firewall set up, she was using an MSP, but what she didn't have was the human firewall, the process of using a safe word before the funds are transferred. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today and how you can protect yourself, especially with the uprise and uptick of AI being used against cybersecurity threats. You know, I have worked with over 100 clients, and they all tell me the same thing. My IT guy is handling it. Let me be clear. There's a difference between what I do and what your IT guy does. That is risk and compliance. He handles the network setup. When you get a black screen and need a password reset, we build a shield, a pass audit, and build the gap between hardware and IRS legal requirements. You know, I'm going to stop for a moment because Adam only has joined us. Welcome aboard. Nice to see you again. Wanted to just introduce.
Wow, thank you.
He is my co-partner today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Adam Oli, and then we'll continue with our training.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ademola Isimeme Odeode, aka AI. I'm AI, not artificial intelligence. So I am a chartered accountant by training, and also a tech and media expert. I host two globally ranked podcasts. That is the King Growth Mindset, AI Business Insights, and Leadership, and of course, Diary of a CFO, which is focused on financial strategies for smart business growth, and of course, Michelle's friend and colleague as well. Well, and of course, I'm really happy with what we're doing. This is the third edition, and we've been having people come up with interesting questions from the past two episodes. I can't wait to see what we achieve with this one and with the ones going forward. So, guys, tune in and learn from the pro. Michelle is a pro. I am the Joe.
Love that introduction. Well, thank you, Adam Oli. So, you know, getting back to what I was saying, right? What are we trying to solve here today, right? We're trying to help you avoid that $50,000 fine. The FTC has passed strict regulations and mandates going forward. I want to see you all stop spending hours using ChatGPT or Googling, trying to figure out how to document your assets and classify them with a WISP, and still wonder if you've done it correctly. We provide you the WISP and IRP plans that are built specifically for your business. I had another client I want to share, right? He's a 30-year-old veteran in his profession and a pillar in his community. Well, a few weeks ago, he had his EFIN suspended in the middle of tax season because he couldn't produce an access and control log to the IRS auditor. The truth is, he thought his IT guy handles that because they set up his firewall, his VPN, and the MFA for him, but they don't. And what we're going to do is try to help you automate this so you can produce your documentation on the spot. And we'll talk about that again a little bit later. When you're a DIY it yourself, you spend a lot of time trying to decipher what the IRS wants and the security six protocols, the FTC, and everything else, right? You're not a technical director. You're a licensed professional. So let's help you build a shield and give you back billable hours so you can build your business and serve your clients. So here's some testimonies from my clients that we have helped build a baseline cybersecurity posture. They all have one thing in common. They felt relieved, educated, and secure by utilizing our services. They understood the value we were bringing and how we could help them save time, money, and most importantly, keep the trust with their client while being confident and audit ready. So let's begin our training today. Let's talk about the Cardinal Bytes Cybersecurity Shield, right? The requirement now is to show that you have actually got governing processes in place and not just paper. It's not just creating a fancy WISP and calling it all done. It's how you handle it and what your company is doing to ensure the overall governance of that document. The regulators are looking for the true governance, which means, hey, you state in your WISP that you back up your hardware every 60 days and then test your data to ensure recoverability. They want to see how you do that. They want to show the proof on how you do that. They're going to ask for timestamps. They're going to ask for logs. So it's critical as you go through this training today that you take notes, right? I've walked into CPA offices and, I'll tell you, right? I'll give you another story. I walked into this one CPA office and the IT guy was there swapping out their computers and installing new servers, right? Naturally, as an auditor with over 20 years, I'm going to observe what's going on. And as I'm watching, I see the tech guy take down the old server and bag it. Okay, I think to myself, but then he does something unusual. He puts the server in a box and tapes it up. So, immediately my spidey senses go up because, I'm not only looking at it from an auditor's point of view, I'm looking at it from a cybersecurity risk point of view. I walk over to him and I ask him a quick question. I said, what are you going to do with that old desktop and server that you're taking from here today? And he simply states, well, we're going to take it back and dump them. I said, okay. And just kind of looked at him and I said, dump them. And I'm thinking to myself, where are you going to dump these? This is client information. I'm not hearing that you're going to cure it. I'm not hearing that you're going to clean it, And I'll tell you what concerned me. He was not following the normal chain of custody and the methods of destruction, which are required, right? You want to know if they're using physical shredding, degaussing, or cryptographic erase tools, and how they track that drive from the rack to its final depth. A chain of destruction is the only legal proof that a CPA office has, right? That their data has been rendered uncomfortable. And that's not what I heard from him, right? And I shared my concerns, obviously, with my client. But that's one of the things that's very important that you understand. So a lot of you will upgrade, change your laptops, even if it's just you and you don't have an IT guy or you don't have an IT department. When you do that, it's very important that you do it the right way. and that you document the process of what you did to destroy that computer or that data on that computer before you just toss it in the garbage or do anything else with it. So let's talk about the $50,000 document trap. I just shared with you 2 events where clients thought the IT guy was handling it and doing the right thing. That's a $50,000 mistake you can't afford. I repeat, that's a $50,000 mistake you cannot afford. Again, the IT guy handles your connections, makes sure your printer works, and the internet is fast. Your router and firewall is installed properly, but they don't manage the system logs, the endpoints, the detection of vulnerabilities, the proof that the IRS and the FTC is requiring for you to show, and that you are preventing PII being exposed. I saw a law firm lose their EFIN in February because they had firewalls but no signed WISP. Most critical, right? The auditor doesn't care about the router. They care about that paperwork. And again, that is where most people fail, is in the paperwork. All auditors want to understand how you track and the traceability of what you do. And that's what the IRS and the FTC are mandating now with all of the changes. And we just came out with new protocols. Every March, they update what they're looking for. So we'll talk about those in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to continue with webinars that are going to educate you and make sure that you're aware of those changes and how you can implement them, again, in 15 minutes. So let's talk about the auditor's black box and what they look for, right? When an auditor walks in, they aren't looking at your code. They're looking at these 4 things. Do you have the logs? Is your user inventory clean? Can you prove your staff was trained? And, do you have a data flow map that maps everything, all your systems, software, and everything else? In addition to that, they're also looking at how you validated your vendors, right? And how you made sure that a third-party vendor is compliant. So we're going to, again, talk about things that you're going to do today. When I walk into a prospective client, I'm observing behaviors, processes, protocols that they have in place. I'm looking at how much paperwork they left on the front desk and no one around. And I'm looking at the cleaning lady wiping the monitor that can see everything. I'm looking at the file cabinets that are open and information exposed. I'm looking at the computer screen unlocked because Mary's getting her morning coffee. I'm looking at the laptop sitting at the front door with no cables on it. And then I take those observations and I ask my client for their policies and procedures. Maybe I'll even ask for their laptop security procedures. I read them and then I start to ask questions against them because I already know that they're not following what they wrote in those procedures in that policy. Because the laptop sitting at the front door with no cables already tells me everything. So it puts me on high alert because that just tells me how deep I may need to go in this audit when I'm conducting my risk assessment. If they're not getting a simple process correct, then again, I'm on high alert. And when it comes to testing their actual WISP, I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of things that I'm going to say. So my job is again, as a compliance partner and a specialist, is to get them ready. Make sure that they're audit ready and fill in those gaps and protect them, right? As an auditor, we're not there to make your life miserable. We're there to help you build that stronger shield and protect what matters, your data, reputation, and your client's info. But understand what the auditors are looking for is critical. Let's talk about the IRS loophole. Let's get into secret number 1. I call this the loophole because you already pay for the tools you need to satisfy 80% of this audit. You just haven't turned them on, right? So we're going to talk today about how you turn those on. And this is really a DIY for you, especially if you have a team. It doesn't matter. You want to validate that your team can do these steps and protect you, right? So let's talk about breaking the IT guy myth, because I love this, right? Your IT guy, again, is the person who comes in, installs all of your servers, fixes your printers. They go around, they make sure your Wi-Fi is working. They often don't do the first thing about the IRS audit readiness. They have no clue, right? How to pull your logs, how to get your, risk assessment done, how to answer the questionnaires. They can assist with it, but they don't do that, right? Compliance is about, again, documentation. We know the WISP is critical, but your IRP plan is that second critical plan that is most important. Because if you are breached, that's the plan that actually tells you the steps that you need to take and how you have to put people on notification, whether it be legal, federal, state, right? Law enforcement, and your clients. So that's critical, right? And then again, you need to be audit ready, right? Don't just create your WISP. Don't just create your policies. Don't just create your procedures. You need to read through them and then sign off on it. Most critical. Like I shared with you earlier, I had a client, didn't sign it. They got cited for it because in the IRS's eyes, it's like saying, okay, this is the paper, but I don't know if it's being done. So again, you want to make sure that you read through everything that you currently have, that you've developed. Make sure it makes sense to you, and it's not just a template you downloaded off the internet and thought you followed it correctly. You need to make sure that it's right. Again, we talk about the $50,000 fine. They're not playing around anymore, right? So you have to make sure that you're protecting your business. Let's talk about this loophole, right? The IRA, the audit ready checklist, and what you need to implement today to satisfy that. Okay. You need to make sure, again, you have the written WISP, but most importantly, you need to make sure that MFA is turned on. And we're going to talk to you. I'm going to give you simple steps that you can do to make sure that you check your systems and make sure that you have this turned on, right? You need to encrypt your data, both at rest and in transit. Very critical. So if you're using tools like Dropbox or whatever you use, your email, all of that needs to make sure that it's encrypted, right? You need to conduct annual training. You need to show that either you individually took your training, and it could be external, whether you use CPE credits or other platforms. You need to show that, print those documents, put it in a safe place. You can keep it a file right on your laptop. And I tell everybody, create a file on your laptop and say all trainings for 2026, right? To show the proof that you've done the essential trainings. There are about 6 essential trainings, and you can go on to my website and you can actually download PDFs that will actually help you do some security checks in addition to this training today. But it'll also walk you through the 6 essential trainings that you need for yourself, and if you have employees, that they must take and that you must document. Okay? So, email phishing detectors. Let's talk about phishing. Phishing is now 90% of the hacks that happen. With AI throwing bots at emails and everything else, it's very simple to get hacked today, especially with phishing. And there's a couple of things that you can actually do, and this is DIY, right? You can turn on your spoof intelligence if you have Windows, and you can do this very simply by following these steps, right? You go to security.microsoft.com and you click on policy and policy and rules. Then you click on threat policies and you click on anti-phishing under the rules section. Then you select your default policy, look for the spoofing intelligence, and ensure it's toggled on. Very simple. It'll take you literally a minute and a half, right? We talk about saving you time. This will save you a lot of time, and this will also help protect your emails that travel back and forth. Once it's turned on, right? If you check show first contact safety tip, This warns you if an email is from an address that you don't usually chat with, because that's another important component, right? You want to make sure that any email that you're opening, and I know everybody says, oh, we know, and sometimes people are like, well, I don't know. But today, what they're doing, especially with the BEC attacks, is they have already gotten into your system with the BEC attack, meaning they are able to send an email from your actual email chain, and it looks specifically like your email address, and send that to an external client and ask them to pay an invoice or redirect them to a new routing and account number, and your client would not even know the difference. That's why it's important to turn this on. Okay. And if you need help, again, go to my website. There's a lot of tidbits there, right, that will help you with this. But this is a very good takeaway. And I do want to add at the end of this web class today, we are definitely going to send you this deck so you have it and you can follow through in the instructions if you're not able to do it now, right? But I'll tell you what Microsoft Security Center, there's a first contact safety tip. You should definitely turn this on and look at it. It puts a giant warning banner on any email from someone you don't know, and it's a digital seatbelt to your staff, because maybe you know, but if what we find is with a lot of firms, you hire seasonal workers and they may not be advanced or aware of what they need to do to help protect themselves. So share this. Don't keep this isolated. This is important. So if you use Microsoft 365, this takes 60 seconds to do. Follow the steps here, right? Enabling and enforcing multi-factor MFA is the single biggest deterrent to business email compromise or a BEC attack. If you don't do this, you're choosing to be a target. And in addition, you're also violating the IRS 4557 and the FTC Safeguard rules by not having MFA on your systems. So here's the step-by-step, right? You're going to go to admin.microsoft.com and you're going to sign into your global admin account. You're going to click on users, which is usually on the left side. You're going to click on active users on the left side again. You're going to click on multi-factor authentication button on the top of the list. It's going to be right up top. You select the user and you click enable. That's as simple as it can be, right? And then you'll ensure the status is changed to enforce. The user will be prompted to set up their phone and their login. And that's what you want. That's MFA, right? On anything that you log into, even if you're logging into a software, right, that you just downloaded, it'll automatically force you to do MFA. Never skip that. When you sign into Sage, Intuit, all of them, right? Think about all the tools that you use every day. They all have MFA, and they're forcing you now to set up that MFA because it helps, again, protect you against being hacked and your data being leaked. So I just gave you 2 great, simple steps that you can do that are going to save you, again, tons of time and protect your business. Let's talk about the audit tracking, the paper trail, right? You need to maintain a compliance binder, whether it's physical or digital. People are still printing stuff out. That's great. But if you're going to print stuff out, you need to make sure that it's locked down and nobody has access to it, right? Every January 1st, put yourself on a calendar invite, review it in its entirety, right? And then print it again or electronically sign it, however you want to do it. Put the date and then just leave it there, right? Until the auditor walks in. At least you know you have it. If there are components, whether you changed a policy, a procedure, added a new server, did any changes throughout the year, then that should be incorporated in your new list for the new year. Make sure you update this because that's critical. Because you don't want to hand an auditor an old document. That is the worst thing to do, right? You can export user MFA status report right from your admin portal, which is great monthly. And I would tell you to start doing that again and saving it. This is part of you owning that process. And if you have an IT guy, make sure they're doing it. If you have an MSP, check with them and make sure they're doing that, because you don't want to be caught off guard when an auditor asks for a log or proof. That's the critical step here about passing your audit. I think you all know that, right? A simple signed memo naming the firm's security coordinator is very critical. The FTC now requires someone be named, right? That designated person. So if you're a single CPA or a solopreneur, like I call it, you need to name yourself. If it's going to be somebody else in your office that you're going to leave in charge of handling your WISP and doing all these updates, make sure that they're assigned. So this way they know the responsible party. Hackers don't just sleep. So let's move on here. Let's talk about something very critical, the AI vault, right? Agentic oversight 24/7, the robot guard that watches your SSN data while you sleep. You know, they are using bots today to scan your firm. To fight a bot, you need a bot. And that's the AI Agentic tool. And, you know, I want to jump in here and I want to have Adam only tell a little bit about what AI Agentic does, because I think it's critical that you hear from someone who is an expert that actually helps build all of these skills that we're going to show you today and can help you through this if you need it, to set this up. So Adam, only tell us a little bit about why set up an AI vault using an AI tool or bot. I can't hear you. Sorry. We can't hear you. Okay, well, he might be having some problems. So while he's trying to figure that out, I'm going to share with you. You know, I had a client call me a couple of weeks ago at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. Her husband, who runs an e-commerce store, his phone started pinging like crazy, right? Usually that meant they were, you know, having a sale on one of their products. But when it didn't stop and they got over 30,000 pings in less than an hour, they knew they had a big problem. So she called me. We immediately went into the website, and their site was what we call under a card for bot attack. A card for bot attack is when hackers have stolen numerous credit card accounts. And what they do is they go into your payment where you can make payments, right? And they start throwing all of these cards against that and trying to process. And they're watching which ones will go through and which ones get rejected. And it happens so fast. And this goes for CPAs, right? Like you may have clients and you may have a payment gateway that is set up on your website. Let me tell you something. Don't just trust, you know, whoever you're using, that it's secure, because it's not. You have to make sure there's certain protocols, and the cybersecurity rules have updated on that, on what you're required to have now to make sure that those payment gateways are protected, right? So I think Adam Ole is having a problem. So when he does return, we'll actually have him kind of join us, right? But you need to make sure, again, how you are protecting your information and all your access points. It doesn't just stop with your computer. Your websites are critical. And if you're not pen testing yourself once a year like you're required to, if you're not doing your risk assessment and your cyber risk assessment once a year like you're required to, you're going to be vulnerable. I can tell you that. Let me just continue. So I will share with you, right? The truth is, it's the invisible data leaks that hurt us all. The truth is, security is only as good as the tools and the humans that are sitting behind the desk and monitoring and watching the alerts, the potential attack, the tracing, waiting.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey, welcome back. So before I actually start with this slide, I'm glad that you joined us. Let's talk about AI. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back a little bit. So talk about why AI is so important and why they can use these bots at Amoli to help protect themselves. Can you hear me? Adamoli, can you hear me? I can hear you. Oh, he may have had some more problems. Let's see. Yeah, so he's having issues today. Let's see if we can add him back to the stage. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was backstage actually. Technology
I
is the
added you on
best thing.
stage and then you were quiet and then you disappeared again. So I'm glad you're back.
Exactly.
Alrighty.
I had to refresh. So I heard the question about the AI agents, right? More, it's and like you rightly said, who best to talk about the AI agents than somebody who is an AI consultant? So think about an AI agent as you being a professional, but having 1,000 or 1,000,000 versions of yourself working on the same thing at the same time. So it's difficult to fight this. And like Michelle rightly said earlier, to fight a bot, you need a bot. So people don't tend to understand like the different aspects of artificial intelligence, right? So you have agentic AI, you have conversational AI, you have a generative AI, right? But the AI is just an umbrella term. So for agents, you have you have AI that is working like a human. But the interesting thing is with AI agents, right? The difference from humans is they do not have empathy, right? And of course, they are not restricted by the human restrictions that we have. For example, they can work 24/7, and that is a very, very scary proposition, right? Humans get tired, but AI agents do not get tired. They're working 24/7. So that actually just buttresses Michelle's point that in order to fight this bots, you need a bot yourself. So the fraudsters are not resting; they're working 24/7, always at the attempt to break into your firewalls. And if that is happening, definitely you need to pay attention to what Michelle is saying and ensure that you have yourself secured. Protect yourself at all times. That's the instruction.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I agree with you. And we're going to walk you through kind of how to do this, right? The cost of a small business to recover from a breach today averages about 120 to $150,000, and that is really critical. By using AI agentic bots and tools to kind of monitor your system and set up some task to do certain things for you, reminders, whatever you want to program it to do, is critical in the world that we live in today, because the AI agentic monitoring is only part of the key to building a secure perimeter and protecting your client's data. So let's talk about how to deploy protection, right? The manual way, which is you checking everything, this is not the way to go, right? If someone tries to download 500 tax returns at 3 a.m. from an IP address in another country, the AI will kill the connection before you even wake up. And that's where these things are critical, right? You can set up the AI tool, right, Adamoli? You can set up your tool to monitor certain things. And even though you may have MSP, you may have a service provider that you think is monitoring for, vulnerabilities, this, that. Again, we talked about earlier, the biggest problem that a lot of these tools that we implement today, you still need the human element and who's viewing it, who's watching what's happening when an alert pops up, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the
AI agents
critical.
don't sleep.
That's right. And that's why I'm a big fan of using an AI agent, because even for my own business, right? I know that it's the second layer of that defense, even though I have everything set up. And that's critical here. This is about moving from the hope to certainty. You know, we're using ISO 2700 standards, the gold standard of security, and automating them. And that's the key, right? You know, your AI is going to scan, it's going to alert, and it's going to help protect. And that's what you want. So, the technical setup, right? The agentic oversight. You can do self setup requirements. You know, you're going to identify what you want to protect. So, you know, maybe you ask the AI to locate every folder containing PII, because I'm sure a lot of you have stuff saved, or even your employees have things that are saved locally when that should never happen, right? Should never ever happen. I'm going to repeat myself, should never happen, right? But you do. So you can actually ask the AI to set this up. And then you would program it to set up guardrails, right? Define normal behavior. And then you would deploy what we call canaries, fake files that'll alert you if it's touched. And that's critical here, right? Because if a hacker does get in, it's not going to know what's real or what's not. The AI will know, but it won't know, right? You can use tools like Microsoft Purview for DLP or data loss prevention. Sentinel One, very good tool for the AI Agentic endpoint protection. Again, some of your MSPs may already have a stack that they're using to protect, but you want to validate what they're using. You also want to understand if they're using AI agentic tools, and if those AI agentic tools that they're using, that they have loaded onto your systems, are capturing and learning from anything or any data that's in your system, because they shouldn't be if they are. So I kind of want to call that back, right? Cardinals bites for automated compliance. We have a GRC platform. My system doesn't learn anything. It's completely autonomous because it's loaded on your system. It's not done through me. But Adamoli, walk me a little bit about how, and we, for time constraints, but walk me through how they would set up locally an AI agentic
Okay.
bot for themselves. Give them an idea of kind of like what it would look like. Would they go into Gemini, ChatGPT, and then, walk them through the difference of like a regular ChatGPT and a pro ChatGPT, meaning like one actually captures the data and learns from it and one doesn't.
Okay. So basically, you know, what a lot of people do not understand about AI is the fact that AI is an umbrella term, right? You have generative AI, you have conversational AI, and then you have the AI agents. So when you go on your ChatGPT, for example, right, uh, a lot of people use the free versions, right? And I strongly advise against that, right? So when you use the pro plan, you can have access to using the AI agents. So there is a plus sign at the bottom left, right? When you click on that, you have like various options. You can use the deep research, which is very big on the machine learning, right? And of course, you can also select the AI agents. So it's very important for you to ensure that your prompt engineering is very, very good, right? So with the AI agents are like having what I say, artificial human beings working for you, right? So once you are able to set that up, and it's quite similar on Gemini as well, right? Key is to understand that you cannot utilize the AI agents on a free plan, right? So in order to set that up, and depending on the ecosystem, the business environment that you are operating in, the first thing is it's always important for you to ensure that your AI tool understands your business, understands your ecosystem, and then you can now go on with good prompt engineering to set up instructions, right? So, and of course, you can have integrations with other websites and give it instructions to act on your behalf. And also, it's also important to monitor what your AI agents are doing, because AI is prone to mistakes, right? But over time, it gets to learn, and it learns really, really fast about your ecosystem, about your business, and you can give it instructions and it keeps working while you are asleep. So basically, I hope I've been able to explain this in the most simplistic way, such that even a dummy or a 5-year-old would understand this. So whichever AI tool you're using, go on the plus sign, and then you will see the AI agent mode. And in the AI agent mode, you can give instructions and have integrations to whatever website you want to work on, and it would, perform the work for you. But importantly, ensure that your AI tool understands your business, understands your ecosystem, in order for you to have optimal results.
Yeah, and that's great. Listen, you've said a lot of keywords, and I'm just going to take that a step further, right? Prompt engineering means how you direct the AI agent to work. So you don't want to use the regular ChatGPT or Claude version or Gemini. You need to make sure that you're using an upgraded version, A, to protect your client information, because I know sometimes people put, questions in these AI tools, and they're putting client information in these AI tools, and it's not being protected. What you're doing is actually opening it to the entire universe, because if you're in a free one, it's learning everything that you're putting in there. So if you are using one that is paid, which I'm hoping anybody who takes this web class today really understands that they should be, right? Even for your own personal use, what you would do, a prompt is the command that you tell it, right? And we call it prompt engineering, and I'll share with you. So, like, if I wanted to instruct to set up and locate every single folder on my desktop containing PII, I would go into my AI tool that I use, and I would say, your role is, as an AI agentic oversight for compliance and risk, that would be the first thing. Your role is, and then the subject would be, I need you to identify or locate the PII on every single folder that I have. And then you would give it third command, and once you locate this, I need a strict list created in an Excel format for me to view. And that's just like simple commands. And once you do that, it'll go into your system, it'll look at everything, and it'll produce you that information. Okay. And that is good for the IRS, right? Your paper trail, right? And that's the secret number 2. It's all about behavioral baselines. When the IRS asks, how do you monitor your data? You can show them the Excel that you produced. You can even ask the AI to conduct this task monthly and create a brand new Excel for any changes. So it's so intuitive that you can direct it to do a lot of different things. But you could show them the automated response in history. And that's what the IRS is looking for, right? It proves you aren't just a passive victim right now, and that you're actually a proactive defender, because you're using a tool to help you monitor, especially, again, if you're a smaller firm and you don't have the support and the resources like larger firms. And if your MSP is doing this and you're outsourcing it, you better make sure that they have the information that you need, right? You need to make sure that they can provide you with a responsible matrix. I tell everybody, extra MSP, can you provide a responsible matrix that defines exactly what alerts your SOC or your security operations center monitors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, versus what is automated? It's a very critical call out, right? You want to make sure that, your MSP is watching everything, right? Many MSPs only monitor up and down statuses, Is your server on? You need to know if they're monitoring behavior red flags and ensuring there is an active threat hunting going on and not just passive monitoring. That's critical. Right? Again, set up your AI Agentic. You can use their tools, but you can also do some checks on yourself. You want to understand their SLA agreement, and that's critical from MSP. So if you're breached or if they have a live threat somewhere, how fast do they respond to you? What's their time to detect and their time to remediate? You need to know that. If they're going to handle that, like the same time they handle your broken mouse in 48 hours, you're extreme risk. So again, those are two quick questions that you do need to understand. And if you're using a third party, again, ask them the tough questions. Don't be afraid. You're paying them for their service. So, sorry. So, we talked about the paper trail, right? Let's talk about implementing oversight, right? Identity assets, where to look. You can tell them, check my C drive, tax data, downloads folder, and, any desktop shortcuts. Again, you would go into your Agentic AI tool, whoever you're using, Claude, Grok, whatever one you want to use, right? Make sure it's a pro version. And you can tell them that you want to map all the network drives holding PII, scan the OneDrive and Dropbox for SSM patterns. These are quick wins. Tag sensitive folders as restricted. So again, you would go in. I would log into, let's say, ChatGPT Pro. I would say, good morning. I need you to establish a AI Agentic robot and bot for me for my company. And I need you to start being the oversight of the following things. Your role is XYZ. This is the subject, map all network drives holding PI. That would be your first. Please create an auditable trail for audit and trackable trail and produce an Excel sheet. That's how you would do this. Very simple, right? You can do this for all the things that I'm telling you here, right? These are just some simple ones, and wins, especially, will save you an IRS audit if it's not being done. And I want to make sure that I express that again, right? If you don't need to know how to write Python code here, you just need to be able to write simple instructions that act like your digital SOP using AI Agentic. That is the most important. You turn it into an autonomous agent that can think, reason, and act on your behalf and conduct certain guardrail assessments, track it, produce a log for it, keep a history on it, and show your auditor that you're doing things. That's the critical step here, right? Critical step. And it'll implement it and it'll take surgical action, right? Adamoli, anything else I need to add to that?
Interesting. So, what is going through my mind right now is the old computer term, garbage in, garbage out, right? So, a lot of people do not realize that, and this is the thing, artificial intelligence, right? But artificial intelligence is only as good as the human behind that AI tool, right?
That's right.
So, very important. I think we've actually emphasized on prompt engineering today, which is how you give the instruction. But very, very importantly, it is very important to avoid ambiguity, right? Ask yourself, like, can what I'm typing be interpreted in another way? If that is the case, you need to be as simplistic as possible in order to get optimal results from your tool. And also, a lot of people do not realize that AI tools actually learn from us. And that is why they call the LLMs, the large language learning models, right? So it's very important to know that you are training these tools in order to be able to give you the optimal results that you desire. So I think
Right.
it's very important for our audience to understand these very basic and elementary principles, and that
Yeah,
would actually help you get the
absolutely.
fundamentals right. Yeah, and
Yeah, and again, you could
being
just say, "Can you write me, 15 prompt questions that I can ask you to make sure?" Right? Like you could tell it anything you needed to do. So I like that you called that out, Adam Oli, because I think that's critical. I think it's very critical that you call out the ambiguity part because it happens all the time. All right,
essential.
let's move on. We have a lot to go on, right? So again, these are just another examples, right? You can connect your AI to your email API. You can sync AI with your tax software. You can set alerts at high for all PDF and XLSX downloads. There's so many things, and these again are just quick wins for you to do and set up. It's so important that you set this up to help you, especially again if you don't have an IT guy or you don't have anybody else that's technically savvy. And you may be technically savvy yourself, but if you're doing this alone, you should definitely use a tool to help you with protecting your infrastructure and building a cybersecurity posture that totally makes sense, right? So again, you'll get this at the end of this web class today, but I wanted to share with you some additional things that you can have it do just to look at your systems and protect you. So audit tracking and the paper trail, right? If you set this up, DLP incident logs will be created. You'll create a behavioral baseline proof. You'll maintain a report of known user locations. Very important. If an auditor actually had to stop a Russian hack, show them your geo-blocking enforcement logs. They'll love it. It logs every time the system is auto disabled and accounts for suspicious behavior. It's so important to do these things. Again, I gave you a lot of commands that you can prompt engineer and have your AI tool start to do this for you. Let's talk about the ghost exit, right? I'm going to say, so I see this happen all the time. I go and conduct a risk assessment on somebody. I run a little script on the users, and bingo, there are 5 people listed that don't even work for the company anymore. And you know what I call that? I always call this the IRS proof fine. Because now you have not cleaned your system and it's potential for breach. If they still have access, passwords, and they can sign on, log on, you're in trouble. You're just in trouble and you're just asking for a fine. I'm just letting you know, right? And this happens all the time. When I see this, I just shake my head. And what we do is we employ, obviously, an AI agent to kill it all, right? At the end of tax season, we're going to talk about that, right? It's 60-second ghost exit. That's what I call this. Tax season ends, and we all want to just collapse. I get it. But on April 16th, you have a massive security hole. The seasonal staff is gone. Their logons are ghost credentials. If you don't vanish them fast, they're going to use the back door, and the hackers are just waiting to open it. Trust me. So this is a simple checklist. It's not complicated. Put a reminder on your calendar and take the action to do it. This is a 60-second protocol to ensure that when a staff member leaves, your liability leaves with them. Okay. As you can see, you can set up an auto expiration on board. And that, again, can be used with your AI Agentic tool. Okay. You can have it remove all audit trail and confirm that it's removed. But it's critical that you do this. Set up yourself a calendar invite. Block out 20 minutes for yourself. If you have to go in and manually do this. Again, this is if you don't have a team that automatically does this for you and there's nothing already set up. But this is critical that you do this because this is one of the first things an auditor from the IRS checks. I want you to know that. And any of you that have been through an audit knows that. They want to look at your users and they want to see who's live and who's not. So the ghost exit, April 16th, tax season ends. Your seasonal staff goes back to their regular life. They go back to college, where whoever you're using, right? But their access stays alive. I just conducted a cyber risk assessment 2 weeks ago on a client. Sure enough, they had a seasonal worker there from last year, right? So when they went through their audit, because we were in the middle of doing a cyber risk, their annual audit, they never deleted it. They never deleted it. And that's a problem, right? These people still had access to their server. They worked remotely and they never removed them. So this ex-employee, I'll actually share on one of my clients what happened. He was using his laptop at a coffee shop, and literally at a coffee shop. And we know that a lot of hackers like to sit in public places, libraries, coffee shops, wherever you sit, even at regular, restaurants. And they hack the Wi-Fi and they wait for people and they scan. They're scanning the universe right there. And they're looking to see who's got open doors to what. They use tools that are very sophisticated, bots, AI themselves. So again, you have to make sure that you do this. It's simple, right? Simple. You need to just make sure that you lock all your old users down and get rid of them. As a business owner, it's your responsibility to plug the holes and take the action to prevent this from happening. You have to mirror the digital departure from your network. And if you don't, you're going to be compromised. So the ghost checklist: revoke SaaS, disable taxware, software, payroll, CRM logins, VPN, anything they have access to. You need to disable it and wipe it clean, right? This isn't just deleting a user. It's a total scrub of the company's data from their personal device. This is how you prevent post-season breach. You got to make sure that their device that they're using, their laptop, is clean. You can use Copilot and email APIs to kill the ghost. By syncing an AI agent to your email and tax server, you create a high alert, uneditable log that makes your offboarding process audit-proof. If a user is active beyond their departure date, because that's what you would set up, it'll immediately trigger a kill switch flow. The total scrub protocol, right? It'll revoke all SaaS licenses, remotely wipe any PII identifiable information from known personal devices used for remote work. It'll kill the VPN connection and reset all the credentials, and it'll log the exact timestamp and the action in an editable audit-proof file. That is what is needed to meet the standards. So make sure that you set this up. Again, with the help of AI, you can do this. Offboarding checklist, right? Cloud access, everything is revoked. And I'll repeat myself. Everything that they have access to is revoked. Tax software, vendor access, remote desktop, whatever it might be, right? Anything. And that their actual device has been swiped and cleaned. It's not enough to just log them and kill them off your tax software and delete their access. If they downloaded files onto their personal desktop or laptop, you're responsible for that data. If they get breached, it's coming back to you. So again, disable user screenshots. You should save that. Once you disable them, save it. You should gather all your logs and save it again in an isolated place. And update your WESP that you've done it, seasonal offboarding protocol, and put the year that you did it, the date and the time. That protects you. I'm going to add in vendors. We talked a little bit about the new update, right? This year, it's really focused on vendors. There's been a lot of vendors that have been hacked, major cybersecurity companies as well. OpenAI was just hacked about a month ago. They're a huge platform, okay? CrowdStrike, we've heard that in the news. We know AT&T. We know all of these hacks are happening. If they can infiltrate those systems with some of the best cybersecurity protocols in place, what do you think they're going to do to a 1-person or a 5-person firm? Ransomware is on the rise, right? We know that. We know that those are the biggest things. Ransomware, wire fraud, deep fakes, and again, phishing. They need a way of getting in order to do these things. That is how it works. They need a simple way, and believe me, they're very smart. They know. So you just have to outsmart them and do everything that you can to be proactive and protect. Third-party vendors now, you're required to make sure that they are vetted. You are required to call your third-party vendor and ask them for their SOC 2 compliance report. Okay? You're required to ask them to guarantee encryption. You are required to understand their breach timeline and notification. And you are required to gather their access controls and understand what they use to enforce MFA on their software. And this is now a mandate. It's not even a requirement. It's a mandate. There's a difference between a requirement and a mandate. Again, we're mandating and moving from just oversight to full on, this must be done. There must be governance. We need to stop the bleed. Okay? If you haven't done this, again, reach out to someone, CyberSecurity, that knows how to do this. We can help you with it here at Cardinal Bytes. It's very important. So again, audit trail, your vendor questionnaire, you need that. You need your SOC 2. And you need termination of proof if you've gotten rid of that software. That's critical. Keep a vendor vault. Again, we created a nice little folder somewhere for all of your employee training. Create a nice little folder for your vendor vault and put all of this information and documentation and proof inside of that. Screenshots, I tell everybody. But again, you need to make sure that you've done that vendor questionnaire repository. You need to identify, you need to know who you spoke to, you need to capture their information, you need to ask for that compliance report, and you need them to guarantee you're protected, basically. Okay? So, the law of the land, we all know this, everybody knows, they fill out their W-12, right? And they renew their PTIN to keep your EFIN in check. You don't want to be the one caught out there saying that you've done all of these steps, that you've certified you have your annual risk assessment, and that you have completed a WISP, because ultimately you would be perjuring yourself if you did and you don't have those elements in place. So be mindful of what you're doing. I don't have time for this. A lot of people tell me, I don't have time for this. I'm like, well, do you have 15 minutes a day? You know, you're right. You're a CPA. You're not a cyber officer. Right? You didn't go to school to become a cybersecurity expert, right? But if you don't do this, the IRS will do it for you. Trust me, they will come in and they will find what they're looking for, and they'll make sure you do this. You know, the old way is spending 10 hours a month worrying, right? Reading an IRS PDF manual, trying to figure out how and what needs to be implemented, what's the priority, how to do it, and everything else. The new way is let us, Cardinal Bytes, handle the tech while you focus on billable hours, right? I'm going to share that with you. The audit-proof buildup. Imagine for a second, a week before tax season, you get the IRS notice. They want your WISP, your logs, and your training records. Are you prepared and can you comply? That's what I tell everybody. When somebody calls me and they want to understand my service, I ask them that question. Are you prepared? If they walked in and asked for a WISP, your logs, training records, and your annual proof of assessment. And if they can't, then we have a different conversation, right? And then I walk them through how we can help them. You know, if all of this training did today was guarantee your EFIN stays active for the next 10 years, then I'm happy that I shared these quick wins with you today, because I think that's very important. All of the things that I shared with you today in these minor little steps can help protect your system and protect what you do on a day-to-day, especially when you are not the expert in this field, or you don't have the resources or the know-how on how to implement this, right? You want to make sure that you're protecting the legacy of your firm that you spent years building, I'm sure, right? By one stupid mistake, as I like to call it. Kill switch, the ghost. Get rid of it, right? Let AI take over. Let AI do a lot of these tasks for you. Let AI build it. It's very important. You know, Walk around your office. If you have other people there, are they leaving stuff out? If the guy who's coming in to fix, your electric today, can he see stuff? That's a breach. That's a problem. Be alert. Pay attention. Right? That's what I'm telling you here. Stop drowning in the red tape. What would this cost you to give you peace of mind? That's what I tell everybody. Today I put together a special offer for everybody who's participating on this web class because I want you to be part of the revolutionary AI system that I'm building to make your life easier with one click of a button. And I have to, and be ready and compliant for your next audit. What if you can just have a system that's on your system? You have access to it 24/7 with a click of a button. You get immediate updates. It deploys on your system. It can read your entire system, see if there's any fails in there, see if there's any incidents, compromises. You're managing it yourself. It produces all of your documentation, plus 30 plus templates and policies and procedures instantaneously, custom tailored to you. It's not an IT process, right? It's us, the people who work in compliance, that know and understand what's needed out there to protect your system. Trackability, traceability, that's what's needed here. Cardinals Bites is the solution for that. We handle the technical junk while you handle your returns. And I like to tell that to everybody all the time, right? Here's our new system. And this is what our system looks like. It's a beautiful dashboard that's going to give you your overall risk. It's going to tell you everything that you need to know. It's going to give you reports, analytics. It'll ingest documents. You can scan, if you want, straight into this, all of your proof of your employee trainings, anything that you have, an NDA, something that you may have signed, whatever you need for it to be compliant. You have a policy generated with one click of a button. It'll take a look at your entire system, create your AUP, right? Policy, a drop of a dime, your BYOD. It ties in as the master to all of your other endpoints, or like I call desktops or laptops that your employees may be using. It ties. They have this on their system, and it ties into one massive system and does an overall risk, right? It's threat intel monitoring 24 hours a day. If there's a new change or a new breach that happened, the system is so smart, it will go in and it'll analyze your system. Excuse me. It'll analyze your system immediately to see if that threat is present in your system and conduct a patch and alert you that it needs to be fixed. So, I'm so sorry. What would all of you work? Yeah, I'm coughing, actually. Got a tickle in my throat. The audit trail, right? We call it the audit trail. It's full audit trail. It also has built in a one click of a button. It's called the Auditor's Bundle. And it gives you all of the documentation, logs, everything that you need to hand over to an auditor for a click of a button. Auditors can even have access to do it themselves. And an auditor will love that. We give them a temporary sign-on password. We invite them to the system. They can't see everything, but what they can get is your WISP, your IRP plans, all your policy and procedures, the current logs, your users, everything that's needed for an audit. It saves them so much time, and it saves you so much time. Today, this is what I'm offering to everybody who's joined this class. And even if you see this after the fact and you want to use this system, I'm going to offer you a free risk review. Right? Take a look at what this would cost you. If you had to pay for this and everything to get you up and running, it would cost you over $80,000. So my biggest goal and mission for my company has always been to work with small businesses and get them compliant and ready and build resources that work for them and help them. right? So in order to meet the requirements, you need a risk assessment, cyber risk assessment, WISP, IRP, your policy, your procedures, your vendor oversight, and employee training. Those are the security 6 the IRS require. What I'm offering here is for the first 20 people on this class today, and even if you listen to this post class, a free risk review worth $297. If you sign up for a free risk review today, we're going to add a bonus offer that you'll be able to try our new AI compliance platform that launches for a 3-month free trial. That's a benefit over $4,000. Okay. You'll be able to be the first on the system and have a complete all-in-one compliance system that gets you audit ready with a click of a button. So if you're interested in booking with us today, I'm going to tell everybody to go over to www.cardinalsbites.com/shield and go ahead and set up that free risk review today. I'm also going to put it in the chat for everybody. Okay, so for anybody attending, you'll also have that as well. You want to go to www. Sorry, let me just finish typing. /shield. And what that'll do is that'll go ahead and it'll log you as one of our free web class invitees. And that'll give you the ability to book your free risk assessment, right? Which you're going to save over $297 and be the first to try our upcoming AI platform. And I even threw in 6 months now. So if you do that right now, we'll go ahead and we'll make sure that you get the cyber shield that you need. So with that said, I'm going to open it up for any questions. I don't know if we have any questions today in the chat. Adam Oli, I don't think there was any questions. I didn't see.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But again, book a 15-minute cyber shield with us, limited slots. And then what I also want to add is become a guest. So, you know, we've had this man is top 2%. Let's take a look at what he is. If you want to be a guest on his platform, I'm going to let him speak to you himself. So go ahead. Tell them what they'll get.
Amazing. So if you want to be a guest on my platforms, either the Kingdoms podcast or Diary of a CFO, you can actually go through that link. So I'll say this real quick, right? It is very, very important for you to invest in your visibility, right? And not just invest in your visibility, invest in the right platforms. It's not just about the number of followers that you have on social media, but where are you seeing? How are you positioned, right? It's not about numbers that are fluff, but about being positioned in the right ecosystem. So in our ecosystem, we've had elite level guests, we've had global top 10 futurists, global top 10 fintech influencers, we've had, you know, Fortune 500 CEO advisors. The list goes on and on and on. We've even had recently we had a Guinness World Record holder on the platform. So imagine yourself being positioned amongst this level of experts. That only enables you to be seen in the right context, because it's not just about content, but the context matters. And of course, the ecosystem keeps compounding. So I'd say if you want PR, if you want authority, if you want credibility, these are the platforms to go for.
Yeah, you know, and I'm going to add to this, like the Diary of a CFO, I love listening to it because I learned so much, especially about the financial education, money management, profit strategies, and things like that. I think it's critical, even if you don't want to be on a podcast, go to the Diaries of a CFO. Right. And then maybe that'll change your mind. Maybe you'll actually want to become a guest and share your story.
Michelle,
and share the things that you're doing. I mean, listen. So I want to add something. We just had 15 people sign up for their risk assessment. I've only opened 20 slots because again, it's about capacity and what we can do. You have about 5 slots left. So anybody else who's interested, go ahead. If you are seeing this after we close this live webinar and you're interested, just DM me and I'll certainly make that offer to you as well, because I don't want anybody to miss out. Again, I'm mindful of small businesses and the needs of them. So I always want to employ and help. But I also want to really, really drive home that being on podcasts are fabulous. I have done plenty of them and it's very rewarding. But the Diary of a CFO is really telltaling, right?
It's amazing. It's amazing what you're saying about Diary of a CFO, yeah. Michelle. I have an announcement. I noticed something earlier today. Do you know that Diary of a CFO just clocked 100 countries? 100 countries today. It's crazy.
Fantastic. And you know, that doesn't surprise me because I've listened to the content. It's great. You know what I mean? So listen, I'm always surprised by what you accomplish, right? Because, you know, that's why we're partnering on these webinars and everything else, because of what you bring to the table. And again, I do want to add something else, right? You can also reach out to Adamoli to help you build your AI skills, right? Very cost effective. He can walk you through simple process, how to set it up, teach you a little bit about prompt engineering, how to give a directive, to do the things that we taught you today. Set these tools up, help yourself, right? And Adamoli, I don't have any other thing to bring to the table today, but this is what I want to say, right? And I'll leave it at this last screen. I thank you all for attending. I hope you had some value. You found value in all of this. We will be posting this again on live LinkedIn. We'll share this deck with everybody that's signed up here today. Oh, we just hit 19 slots. So, you know, one left. If you're still on the line with us today and you haven't dropped off, go ahead. It might be a little bit backed up. Sometimes when you get a few people doing this, you know, the tool at the same time, it gets a little crazy, but that's okay. But again, DM me. DM Adamola. We'll both be posting this to our LinkedIn sites, our YouTube channels. Find us everywhere. Anything you want to add, Adamola?
I just want to say thank you very much, everybody. It's amazing, and of course, you know, you, Michelle. I don't know why people prefer Diary of a CFO. Kingdom's podcast is in 97 countries, but Diary of the CFO has overtaken and it's in 100 countries. So I can only say I'm grateful. Thank you, guys.
I'm grateful too. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.